All right. This ain't just a show. This is a platform. Veteran built, battle tested. Welcome to the MisFitNation. Yeah! Mic in a room, built from boots on the ground. Now we breaking the rules. 2 vets, 1 leader, painting the sound. Turn scars into sermons, let them echo around. Authors with truth, musicians with fire. Actors backstage, chasing something higher. Entrepreneurs bleeding just to get ahead. If you fought for your dream, yeah, you are what you said. If they told you no, if you still came back, if you fell to your knees but you stayed on track, this is your voice, this is your flame. Say it loud, remember the name. No salvation, just elevation. We rise again. From the fight to the end. We are the MisFitNation. No damn labels, no damn cages. If you're still breathing, you belong. Turn it up. This is our song. Yeah. This is our song. Yeah. Veterans standing with ghosts in the chest. First responders running in while the world second guess. Gold star names carved deep in the soul. Your story ain't over, we carry the whole. Coaches teaching mindset, breaking the chain, turning barely alive into owning the pain. Truth over polish, scars on display. If it's real, let it bleed. That's the misfit play. If it's heavy right now, and the dark feels cold. If it's heavy right now, and the dark feels cold. If it's heavy right now, and the dark feels cold. It's Aubrey right now. We're the more than you know. 9888, don't walk alone. Veterans press 1, bring it home. Don't trade forever for tonight. You're still needed in this fight. We are the MisFitNation, built from scars and dedication. We rise again. From the fire, from the fight to the end. We are the MisFitNation. Every voice is fabrication. From the silence to the scream, we're strong. Welcome home, you belong. You belong. You belong. Oh wait, you. Oh wait, you belong.
Fit Nation. We have a great guest coming on, but before that, I have to make sure Cagney and Lacey know we're thinking about them. I know their favorite driver won tonight, Joey Logano, and the Fever won tonight against Atlanta Dream in overtime. Great game. Caitlin Clark and Leah Boston, Kelsey Mitchell all kept rocking it, and they did it well tonight. But tonight we're welcoming a guest whose experience with preparedness, medicine, survival, and self-reliance wasn't learned from a book, a YouTube video, or a weekend course. It was learned in places where mistakes could cost lives. Patrick Thibeault, also known as Suburban Prepper, is a retired United States Army combat veteran, a former combat medic, 160th SOAR paratrooper flight medic, ICU registered nurse, a family nurse practitioner, author, and creator of the Total Preparedness Program. He served in both Desert Storm and Afghanistan, carrying and treating casualties under conditions most of us will thankfully never experience. After his military career, he continued serving others in some of the most demanding areas of civilian medicine, from intensive care units to family practice. And today, he's taking those decades of hard-earned experience and teaching everyday people what real preparedness looks like. Not fear, not hype, and not a closet full of expensive gear. We're going to talk about the medical skills every family should know, why so many people misunderstand preparedness, what happens when help isn't immediately available, how to develop the mindset to act instead of freeze, and what Patrick learned about life, resilience, and purpose after serving in 2 wars. So whether you're a veteran, a parent, a first responder, someone interested in emergency preparedness, or you simply want to be more capable when life goes sideways, this is a conversation you're going to want to hear. Misfit Nation, put those hands together and welcome Patrick Thibeault to the Misfit Nation. Welcome, Patrick.
Hi.
All right.
Rich,
here. Awesome.
Happy to be here. Thank you.
Sorry about that. Forgot I unplugged my computer and plugged it back in, and Apple goes back to old settings. So I had to deal with that.
All right. Give me 1 second. I hate to do this. I got to put my dog in the cage really quick.
Get the killer dog. Get the killer dog. All right, Mr. Earlier before sound went out, I was on the road Friday, 10 hours. Well, 10 hours Google time. And then 10 hours again today, Google time, but 9 hours on the road.
That's not a good impression. I'm sorry.
And here he is.
There we go.
Prepper. Patrick gave the elevator speech pitch about you right there. Just fill in some of the blanks and let the Misfit Nation know a little bit more about Patrick from as far back as you want to go to how we got to where we are today.
Thanks for having me on, Rich. It's going back. Start with high school. I graduated from high school, Seoul American High School in Yongsan, Korea. Nice. It used to be an army base. They recently shut it down and gave the garrison back to the South Korean. And so basically what was 3 years of my hometown is obsolete now.
It's a heckler.
I joined the army from Korea as a kid. Boot camp was in El Paso. Of course, medic school to learn how to become a medic was in San Antonio, real pretty city, at Fort Sam Houston. And then, of course, I wanted to be a paratrooper because we lived at Bragg when I was in my formative years before we went to Korea. I saw the paratroopers jumping out of the airplane. I mean, you could see that in Fayetteville everywhere. So this is what I'm going to do. And I wanted to help people and wanted to be a medic. So I was a paratrooper medic. My unit was my first unit was the 129th Special Operations, which merged into the 160th Special Operations as a paratrooper flight medic. Of course, at that time, 1990, Desert Storm kicked off, and we went over there and did our operations and stuff. And that's where it all started, really. When my first taste of blood, sweat, and tears when I was still a teenager on the ground in the back of a modified Black Hawk, taking care of wounded, thinking airway, breathing, circulation, disability, exposure. When I had guys that were just blown up in front of me. I was still a teenager back then. And that sort of shaped and formed me. Like, you don't know if you're good at doing something till how you work under pressure. And that's when I realized, like, yeah, I got something in this medical field. That's a pretty intense pressure as it is in combat. And I enjoy doing that, just helping people. So I did my time in the military, active duty. Then I went out and joined the National Guard. And I was in college in an associate's program by Fort Knox to become a registered nurse. And I ran into a recruiter from the Kentucky Guard. He had it so easy because it was right by a military base. So he was just, fishing a pond, getting veterans to sign back up. I joined the Guard. And I enjoyed being a medic in the Guard as well. So on the civilian side, I was working as an RN. In the military, I was working as a combat medic. So two dual careers. They had their paths diverged a little bit. One was in the hospital. I did that for a living. And the other, as a combat medic, I got to drive the medical tanks, as I'd call them, the 113s and 577s. I went from being a paratrooper and a flight medic to getting to drive the track vehicles in the backwoods at Fort Knox. I tell you, that was a lot of fun, knocking the little trees down and stuff. So that was with a mech infantry. Of course, I spent time in Afghanistan. I deployed with my Guard unit from Indiana, 76th Infantry. We were embedded with the Afghan army as tactical TC trainers, and we were medics. So we worked with their medics and somewhat. And so that was Afghanistan. Of course, that was a shit show. Excuse my cussing. So two combat tours. And that doesn't count the state active duty missions that I went on. Some of the things I did with the 160th that just happened to happen when you were there when they needed you to do stuff. I don't go into that too much. I came home from Afghanistan. I mean, there's a whole, well, I wrote a book about it too, my journey as a combat medic. But the whole book about that. Got to help a lot of people with that. And went home and I wanted to become a nurse practitioner as a mid-level provider. Thing was, I got accepted to PA school to become a physician assistant before my guard unit got activated. But I got the call for duty, and I wasn't going to, the call to the nation, I wasn't going to skimp out. I said, okay, well, this is the cards that I dealt with. I joined up. My number was chosen, so to speak, and I went with it. So when I came home, I went the nurse practitioner route. And that's where I'm at today. Backtrack a little bit how I got into preparedness, honestly. It was SEER school at Fort Bragg or Camp McCall. I turned 21 at SEER school. I thank God that I was not the youngest one there. There was a recon, 11 Bravo recon kid. I say kid, he just turned 19. And they were in 18th Airborne Corps. So he was what was the war baby. I missed out by, I think I was the second youngest, so they just left me alone. But anyway, I turned 21 in the POW camp. They made no mention of my birthday, and I was glad for that. But the survival skills that I learned in SEER school and that I practiced in the 160th, that always stayed with me. And that was a lot of bushcraft skills because our unit, we would parachute in somewhat as a Pathfinder team and set up landing zones for helicopters and refueling points. So when you're in behind enemy lines like that, you have to have those refined survival skills. And as a medic, so we did a lot of bushcraft during the day, sleep about 4 or 5 hours and go patrol at night. Excuse me. But I like that survival component of it. And that changed my mindset about how I see things. And and of course, being a combat veteran at that time too, I've always seen things a little different. Like, how prepared are we for something? And I take that with working medical. If you work in the medical field for any length of time, you're going to become an instructor of some sort. You have to teach what you learn, teach what you know to pass it on. That's just part of the profession. So I've taught other nurses. I've precepted other nurse practitioners more on the clinical side. And of course, as a combat medic, from day one, you teach the combat lifesaver course to members of your unit. And that was more, granted, that was more by the book, what we taught, but we had our experiences as medics that added some of that meat to it instead of that dry correspondence course that you had to bring in with you before you started the course.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, education, that's a big component. So preparedness. I did my time with the Guard. I retired in 2011, 2012 in Kentucky at an armory in Lexington. I was happy. I did my 20 years. My goal was to get my 20-year letter and say goodbye, and I did. A good 20 years. I did nothing for a couple of years. I just worked. But I missed that formalness, that education. and the survival skills. I didn't want to, so I went to I chose to become a prepper, a survivalist, so to speak. There's a fine line between being a prepper and a hoarder, to be honest. I think of the worst situations, the worst realistic situations, and how to survive them. And I lived it. I joined a prepper group with other men and some women, and we would meet and exchange skills. And I had a vast knowledge. I had a set of skills that was useful working medical, and some of my bushcraft skills that I acquired in the military. And I learned a lot of stuff from other people as well. My big weakness was ham radios. How the technology with how to plug a ham radio is, the military kept it so simple with a plugger in the Singar. The ham radios to me was just, so I had weaknesses that I had to learn. But we worked as a survival operations group. And that was when I lived down in southern Indiana, where I'm from. But we went our separate ways. And for a little while, I'm like, well, I'm still a prepper. I'm a survivalist. But I want to share, and I want to share my knowledge. I want to share what I've learned with other people. And so I created my YouTube channel, Suburban Prepper. But the thing is with YouTube, you're very, very restricted what you can show and get, because you can they can basically, you're on their platform, you have to abide by their rules, and that's fine. So, okay. So I could do more than this. And I've done making videos about how many times can you make a video about purifying water. I wanted to do something deeper. I had these skills. I couldn't really go over a lot of the trauma skills and a lot of the alternative medicine that I've learned. So I still keep my YouTube going, of course, but I wanted to prepare something outside of that. So I was, thinking, what am I going to call this? Total Preparedness Program, TPP. You got to have an acronym, right?
Always.
So Total Preparedness Program. That's where I went with that. On a side note, I did a 3-year postgraduate fellowship in alternative and integrative medicine, which I call alternative medicine. So I incorporate both medical, primary care, urgent care, also incorporate alternative medicine to work in conjunction with medical in my program, plus my bushcraft skills and the stuff that I can't put in YouTube land, like rifle stuff, because they hate that. I can have it, and I'm very gentlemanly about what I put in there. I'm not a vulgar person, but I can get away with doing a lot more stuff on my preparedness website than I can. So I have modules on AR-15s, 9mm, 22 rounds that I like to shoot. Okay. And my long range round, which some people say it's an old, outdated round, but for me, I like it. My 300 Win Mag. And of course, I have a nice big bolt action servo 50 cal. But that's another story. That's very long range. And that's just for fun. Also, what I learned from my fellow preppers about ham radios, I have a ham radio prep course. How to even get the different various licenses. And I love making alternative medicine videos. I do it based on condition, what somebody is suffering from. I do it on the different herbals that are available. And my preference as far as what herbals, it's something you could take in a pill form, because most of these herbals that you take, they grow, the plants themselves, they grow in the tropics. You're not going to be able to grow most of them in the northern United States. There's different grow zones. So it goes without saying, I'm also big into survival garden. A third of my backyard is, it's a garden. I have raised beds. I used water troughs for horses because, of course, I was a paratrooper. I got a bad back, so I don't want to bend over too much. And I have raised beds. I compost, and I grow things that I do naturally. I don't have to add any, not everything, but I grow a lot of the food that I eat. And as a survivalist, I like to think long term. So I invested in a freeze dryer. I went the freeze dryer route instead of buying freeze dried food, which I think all of us have at some point. Some of it's okay, but I get to freeze dry some of my food for a couple years. I'm still eating some strawberries from 2019 that have been freeze dried. And I tell you, they taste just as good as they do freeze dried as they do, fresh off the when we pick them. Same with peaches. I can't grow, but I get fresh peaches from Michigan, cut them up, put them in a freeze dryer. I still have peaches from 2019, hundreds of them. Oh, they're delicious. But anyway, freeze drying. But I digress.
Yeah.
So one other thing I like to do is city survival guides. Basically, let's just be honest. We live in the United States here, and there's major metropolitan areas, and there's suburbs. My big suburb where I live at, unfortunately, is by Chicago. I live in Northwest Indiana. And I'm thinking to myself, well, what if you're stuck in a major metropolitan area that you're not from? You don't know the roads. You don't know who is what and where and why. So I've developed what I call city survival guides. They're between 1 and 4 hours long, going over everything in each major city. And it's a pleasure I learned so much about each city. Of course, I wanted to do cities where I grew up at. So I went as far as I did Fayetteville, North Carolina. I even did Seoul, South Korea. And I learned so much how much it had changed since I was there as a child and how much it had been different. Excuse me. And of course, another foreign city that I say foreign, it's London, big city in the United Kingdom, England. So that's a big component of my Total Preparedness Program.
Wow.
So
yeah, you've done a lot, and you've been around, obviously around the world.
Yeah.
My daughter went to Seoul American Elementary School, SAES. So one of the last classes there, we left there in 2010. So I think they closed probably 15-ish, 17-ish, something like that.
Yeah.
They moved everything down to Camp Humphreys, and I'm sure they changed the names of the schools when they moved them and such. So a lot of people like you who were able to say, I graduated SAS or SAMS over there and hung out by the Dragon Hill. You lost a little bit of your past. It's still part of your history. You still have your friends if you're still able to stay in touch with them, since a lot of your generation and when you went to high school, there probably wasn't on or isn't on Facebook right now. It's hard to reconnect with them, but I'm sure you can at some point. And then of course 160th, a very historic unit. You deployed when it was basically their first full deployment as the 160th. They started, the concept came up after Desert One, of course, after the failure at Desert One in Iran. And then I think it was 2 different aviation battalions came together to make the 160th. And I think 129th or 165th or something like that, or 158th came together and made 160th, and what we know it is as now, with the headquarters of the regiment at Fort Campbell, and then a squadron down there at Hunter Army Airfield and one at JBLM. So it's spread out, and it's a great organization that you had the honor to serve in. And then, of course, you had to go backwards and go into that mechanized world at Fort Knox. And Fort Knox is a fun place to play and visit. It's not a great place to be there full time. At least you were in the Guard. You can go home after a weekend or after 2 weeks. But you did a lot of things in the military side of things, especially doing your 20 years and retiring back into Lexington, and still treating others and helping others through your nursing profession. And then now through your suburban prepper, the total preparedness side of your life now, Total Preparedness Program. So you're doing a lot of things, and you've done a lot of things, and now you're giving back. And I think you found your purpose. You found your purpose as a prepper, and through all your background to do this stuff, it has to help you out. It has to fill your cup at the end of the day, knowing you're helping others.
Yeah, it does. Yeah, it's that you got that combat takes part of your soul away. Let's just be honest. It takes part of your soul. I don't know where some of it's at, but I do know that when I'm making some of these videos and people get to watch them, it puts some of that soul back in me. It makes me fulfilled, makes me more fulfilled. But yeah, a lot of my soul is gone. It's gone. I hate to say that.
Especially when you said you were 18 when you went to the Desert Storm and had to seen the things at 18 that most people will not see in their whole lives. But you didn't stop. You kept doing that same profession for 20 years in the military, of course, and then you still did it on the outside too. So you were seeing a lot of people on their worst time, the worst days, and that doesn't help you when you've seen that stuff as an 18-year-old and you don't get to fully, I guess, exhale or breathe and heal from that. Now, like you said, you're able to fill your cup a little bit with TPP.
Yeah. So,
and there is a question in the chat already about the ham radios. It's from my brother. He wants to know, are a lot of people still using ham radios?
Yeah. We use ham radios. That's for longer communications. CB radios have never gone away. That's got about a 5-mile range. That's good for a small town.
Yep. And
there's a GMRS radios that's sort of in between. They have about a 10-mile range. Those are, to me, the three big methods of civilian communication. None of it's encrypted. There's no secrets. If you're going to say something, you're on the public, someone's going to hear you. So, you got to watch it. And I'm not, what secrets do I have anyway? I'm not in the military anymore. But yeah, it's still out. People still use it. It's, obviously these things here, these little robots that are little masters, these little triangular masters. Yeah. That's how we communicate too. But it's always good to have alternate methods of communication, short of, talking in a phone with a wire, which nobody does anymore, which I've actually done.
Yes.
At fire points,
And then the GMRS, I know a lot of off-roaders use GMRS as well, because a lot of times you're doing off-road riding or rock climbing, you're not in a place that has service. So GMRS is the only way you can reach out and touch someone and get that help. So they're pretty cool little radios, the GMRS. But like you said, none of those are secure. They're open-ended, and anyone can tap into them, but anyone can hear you. So if you need help, they can hear you, and they should be able to find you if you know where any kind of terrain feature that's around you.
And, terrain, that's a good point. We in the military, we've all done, I don't know about Space Force, okay, because they're in outer space, but a lot of the branches that are on the ground, we do a lot of land navigation.
Yes.
At first, when I was a young kid learning land nav, not so good. I got better when I earned my expert field medical badge with the 1st of the 75th. And I began to love doing land nav. So I have there's 30 different modules of land navigation that I have. Things that I've learned, things that I wish I'd known, like land naviging at night on a clear night, looking at the stars to see where you are. That's a skill that you don't just have to be in the ocean to do it. You can do it on the land. So I go over some of that. I go over some advanced triangulation skills at how to find your point on a map. Yeah, some of it's that basic training stuff that we learned. And it goes into somewhat of a search and rescue modality. If you don't know land nav, if you want to get into search and rescue in any shape or fashion, you have to know your land nav back and forth. And that's, of course, I have some search and rescue training in my Total Preparedness Program. My website, it's tpp.suburbanprepper.com for anyone that's interested.
I just put it in the chat. So
it's
anyway.
well-rounded. I like to, it encompasses, I like, of course, as a medical provider, we always think of prepping. We think of grown men, right? What about the older folks, geriatrics or elderly? Then we have women. Half our population are the ladies. And then we have our infants and our children. So I have modules about health conditions that people of all, different aspects you would encounter as a prepper, and how to manage that kind of stuff. I'm a family nurse practitioner, so I think of the family, of everybody. So when we think of prepping, it's not just us dudes doing it. It's men, women, it's grandpas, when they have their grandkids over, for example. If you got to have the preparedness part of me is you have that bag ready for that kid, right, and everything that kid would need. And as a grandpa or a mother and a father, you should think in that. Do you know your kid's shoe size, for example? Do you know your kids what size diaper that they wear if they're still a baby? Do you know what their favorite formula is, for example? And to get even into the minutia, do you know what size pacifier they use to drink? So those are the kind of things that you need to, as a survivalist, think about the different ages. So I go over that at my tpp.suburbanprepper.com website. In addition to the gore, it's not gore, the bushcraft, the survival, the gung-ho stuff.
Yeah, I've been looking at the website. There's a lot of good information on the website itself. There's also, I think, a free guide you can sign up for as soon as you come on the website. It says get your free guide. It's the first tab. So you get there, you put your email in there, and I'm guessing it goes right to your email as soon as you press the send me the free guide button. And that's pretty cool to have. That's a good source for people to start and maybe come back and say, hey, look, I loved your guide. Maybe I need a little more help here. I can do some more stuff. And I also see you have a lot of pictures of the medical bags and stuff on here. Medical bags are very important in prepping. No matter if you're going to be off the grid or in your house or on a long trip, you have to have some kind of medical supplies. If you had to coach someone today, Patrick, what's the 5 most important items to have for a medical bag if they were packing today?
The 5 most important items to have. I feel like I'm on a late night show now.
Yes.
All right. The number one, we're going to go with number one, the most important, is tourniquet. And not just a tourniquet. You got to have 2 tourniquets, okay? One that you have at the ready, and one that you practice with your family. That's the number one thing. This is real easy the way you ask it, because you have to think about airway, breathing, circulation, disability. And now we changed it to bleeding, breathing, shock. The next item that you need to have, or I call them Israeli dressings, the field dressings. Back in the day, we had field dressings and pressure dressings. It's a combination of a pressure dressing and a field dressing. That's item number 2. But you got to practice with it.
Yes.
It makes no sense in having a nice field dressing in your kit, but you've never opened it. And when you have to use it on somebody, you're freaking out because you never took time to train with it. So I always say get one to practice with. Well, get a couple and have a couple in your bag. The next item, if you're going to just nitpick it, and nitpick I say on purpose, because if you need to expose a wound, how are you going to do it? You can't rip off everybody's clothes. We're not all Hulk Hogan. Scissors, medical shears. You have to be able to cut through. And of course, I have the ones that can cut a penny in half. It doesn't take much anymore. But you better expose the clothing. You're not going to put pressure on a clothing and expect to stop the pressure. You need to expose the wound. The best way to do that is scissors. Good, sturdy scissors. The ones that we had in the military, they were great. A lot of people like to say military stuff's not that great. I still buy them online, but I get the ones that have the NSN, the National Stock Number. My days of getting things from acquiring that's over. Yes. So we talk about breathing, bleeding, chest seals to seal a pneumothorax, because I'm not going to tell someone that's number 3, a vented chest seal. The vented is the one where the air can go out, but not back in. I don't believe in non-vented because you have to milk the wound to get the air out of the pleural cavity. Okay. And if you have that's for chest trauma, for an open pneumothorax. Okay, where you have chest trauma and there's air that's going out because it goes in. Also, if you have a chest trauma, you have to look for a wound, an exit wound. So you need to have packing material to pack a wound. So packing material would be number 4. I'm gonna go with 6, okay, because I have to. And then of course you got to have tape. How are you going to hold that packing material in? And number 6 is the bonus.
Bonus round.
It's available now. It's clotting factors, Celox, for example, to help stop major bleeding. You just some dressings come with it already. Some you have to put it on the wound. It's not. You can get it now. You don't need a prescription or anything like that. You can buy them online. Those would be the 6 items that I would. At the minute, of course, there's hundreds of things you can think of, but you got to think of the major things. I didn't go over how to splint a wound because most broken bones, I mean, I parachuted with a broken ankle before. You can do a lot with a broken bone. You can do patrols, but those would be the 6 things that I think are real important.
Outstanding.
As a minimum for your medic bag.
So you're able to rattle those off, and I think a lot of people, they'll just go on Amazon and click a box or click something that has the Red Cross on it and say that's the one I need because it has 5 stars. You have to actually look and see what's in that red box, that Red Cross, to know what you're getting. And like you said, it's worthless if you don't know how to use it.
Yeah,
you can get the best, you can get all the best stuff and not know what you're doing with it. That Israeli dressing is an amazing piece of equipment if you know what you're doing with it. If you're just tying someone up with it, it's just you're wasting money and wasting the bandage.
Yeah. So we had some tornadoes that came through here this week, and I learned my failure point quite drastically. Our power went out. I have solar panels on the roof, a battery. The battery not working. The panels weren't working. I had a backup generator. I used it last month. I figured it was fine. Got it out, tried to get it started again, and the gas line was broke.
Oh, man.
I'm not a little guy. I can't fit my hands and fix the gas line. So I'm like, oh, shoot. So I failed. I couldn't power my house, which basically would be powering the refrigerator and the sump pump in the basement, right? I'm like, oh, great. So forget the CPAP machine. I have sleep apnea. I'm not going to worry about that. But I failed. So I had to drive 200 miles in stormy weather the next day to find a store that had a this is what being unprepared is like, to get a generator. So I drove to a place called Lebanon, which is in central southern Indiana, at a Menards, and they had it. Oh, I was so grateful. Everybody there was so nice. And as I was driving back, my wife informed me that the power went on back in the house. Great. Yay. Of course, the sump pump hadn't been working for 24 hours and it was raining. And of course, the basement flooded. What are you going to do? So with, even as a prepper, you can try to anticipate everything, right? But you accept that sometimes you're going to fail. I tried to anticipate power, backup battery power, have my little generator, which I've practiced using, but I'm not, I can spit out doing medical stuff and boom, 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 boom. But a generator mechanic would probably be able to fix that generator in 30 seconds, right? But that's why it's good to have that survival operations group, that skill, that group set of other people to work together.
Yeah.
So it's good to have friends like that, friends in good places.
Yes.
and not be the lone wolf or whatever. It's not a good thing. It's not a good thing to be a loner. Of course, my personality, I'm a loner. As a combat veteran, I think a lot of us, we feel more secured lonely. So I got my basement, the sump pump started working. I got it dried out. If you have a basement, get a portable dehumidifier. That's just a tip. Keep that humidity low because of wood. But that was my failure. That was my fail point. At least I had the truck to put it in.
Yeah.
I took the back roads because I knew the main arteries would be just congested with people. And so you try to think of every encompassing thing that you can think of. But sometimes you're going to fail. And guess what? You learn from your failure, So I learned from my failure.
Yeah. That's sometimes it's a tough lesson, but at least you were able to learn. You can say, I learned from it. And the next time it won't happen again. And we talk here on the MisFitNation, I don't know if you've watched our show before, about stacking victories. So for you, making sure you have everything in that checklist and that prep log, sometimes something's going to go wrong, like with the generator issue in the sump pump. And there's nothing's working because there's no power and all the batteries are out. So now you learned that lesson. Now you went all the way to Menards and Indiana there and brought that back. So now you have another piece to your puzzle. Your puzzle is now getting more complete. And the storms you're talking about, I was looking that up just a little while ago. I think 7 people are now confirmed to have lost their lives in those storms through that region, through the tornadoes and flooding now in Indiana.
Yeah, it's tragic.
It's a horrible time. But it's good to know that you're out there and trying to help others to become more prepared and have that emergency preparedness mindset, so they're not just reacting; they're proactive before it occurs. And we have 2 questions from the audience in the chat right now. This one is, why not me? Patrick, if an ordinary family can learn only one emergency medical skill before a serious crisis happens, what should it be and why?
Instinctively, what comes to my mind is that tourniquet.
Yes.
How to properly apply a tourniquet. If you've got arterial bleeding right here, the tourniquet needs to go over here. And it needs to be cranked hard. It's not okay, does it hurt? I'm going to only stop when it hurts. No, you stop when the bleeding, the bright red bleeding stops oozing. And you got to act fast. And you've got to understand that's going to make that person scream and hurt when you're putting that tourniquet on. But guess what? It's better than the alternative.
Yeah. They're alive. Yes.
Yeah. So I would say go to meeting time with your family and your friends. Practice putting tourniquets on each other. Obviously, not as tight, but just so you have that skill. You got to develop that muscle memory. And it does take some skill. It's just another piece of equipment. But the thing is, if it's in a shelf or in a bag and it's never been used, you want to know something. As a medic, I always, even off duty, okay, I would feel naked, or naked as we would say down south, if I didn't have my aid bag fully packed at the go, at the ready, at all times. I would, even if we were going out to party at the club, back in the day, I would have my aid bag packed in my truck, or my Cavalier at the time. I was a poor man, of course. So, of course, back then we didn't have those kind of tourniquets. We had a piece of wood and we had cravats and we had to twist and twist and twist until the bleeding stopped. And
cravat, yes.
So when they came out with these cat tourniquets and soft T tourniquets in the late 90s, like, oh my God, why didn't we think of this? The technology, because plastic and molding, it was great. And no one ever thought, why don't we just combine a field dressing and a pressure dressing into one? Well, who's saying we can't do that? Yeah. Well, that's why they call it the Israelis, whoever in Israel created that. I know it as a Israeli dressing. Some people just call it a pressure dressing.
Yeah, I think
it's changed so much.
when they issue it to you, they call it the Israeli pressure dressing, Israeli dressing when they give it to you. So that's what I've always called it to. In my bag, I carry a rat's tourniquet and then the soft T tourniquet. So it's the rats. I can do that by myself and get that on immediately, and then I can get the other one and put that on right after. So when I got the rats, I trained my wife I had the one open like you did to train people, and I said, "Bam, you're shot. Now what do you do?" And I make her talk through it and go through the whole thing with the rats to put that thing on there, because that takes some skill to put that rats on without tying yourself up into knots. And she got that down, and then the soft T as well. So we have both in all of our cars and have that little prep bag in there. So I'm a fan of both those, both tourniquets there. So I agree with you on that point.
So my daughter's 8.
Right.
And of course, we would play doctor. I'd let her wear my stethoscope and she'd practice listening to my heart. But I introduced her to the medical at an early age. So she knows a lot more than what an 8-year-old knows. But expose them to the good things to learn when they're young. You have to incorporate the children. It's not just about playing video games or getting online anymore. Expose the children to these skills. They need to practice putting tourniquets on their parents. So if, God forbid, that would happen, they need to be able to do that.
Yeah.
The paranoid person I heard guys that would go on missions, okay, and they would put a tourniquet here, and a tourniquet on their groin. I'm like, don't you have faith in your brothers?
Yep.
Because that's restricting your blood flow. That's just makes the guys would actually do that. This just makes no sense, dude. If something happens, I'm right here. I can whip that thing out and I can get it going. You don't need to. So that to me is the like when preppers just start accumulating stuff, hoard too much. You could do that with gear too.
Yeah.
Don't go overboard with everything.
I've seen guys in Afghanistan, my last tour, that they already had them on their arms and legs, just ready to go, and you already have them in your pockets. Your team knows where everything is because you train together. You know where everything is on each other. So if I get hit, they know where my stuff is. They're going to grab it. Unless that part of my body was blown off, then they'll take the other one and put that on there, and they'll do the work. Trust, like you said, trust in the system. Trust your teammates, because you all went through the same training. You all know everything about each other. You should anyway, and you'll be there for each other when the worst day of your lives happen. So you gotta trust what you have and trust what you know. Got a question here. Why not tampons to slow bleeding?
Oh my God.
In this day and age, why not Narcan?
You said the T word.
Yes.
You're never going to stick a tampon, okay, in a chest wound. There is no tampon is an absorbent for women during their menses. It has no other purpose. It's not going to coagulate. I mean, think about it, ladies and gentlemen, if a tampon coagulated where it's being used at, I'm going to be gentlemanly. A woman wouldn't be able to pull it out when it needs to be pulled out. That's where, on my list of 6 things, what did I mention? Packing material, that's what you use instead, packing material. Some of it is iodoform gauze. Some of it comes with the clotting factor already in it. But no, I don't. Tampons are meant for women that certain time of month when they need them. And that's where it should be set for. Now, is it a good idea to have tampons in your medic bag? Oh, of course, but for that purpose, not to pack a wound. I'd laugh at that. I mean, I'm trying to be ridicule when I say that, but that's an ongoing joke in the prepper community about tampons, and people swear by it because they've done it. I mean, you could put a Band-Aid on a chest wound and the patient could live, but that Band-Aid really do anything, they're going to probably live anyway. Do you see what I mean? Yeah.
And how about the Narcan? How about the Narcan stuff? These days they're ODing on meth or whatever.
Well, it would be an opioid, yeah. You have to check to see if you can have Narcan without a prescription in the state that you're from. As a medical provider, that's where it gets a little confabulated a little bit, because I'm a medical provider. When I prescribe a narcotic for any of my patients, click it automatically. They automatically get a nasal inhaled Narcan. It's a funny story though. We were embedded with the ANA, Afghan National Army, and they bring in one of their boys. Of course, there was a language barrier. Our interpreters, they had ulterior motives or something. I don't know. And I was a medic. We had a couple of PAs, but I wasn't the medical provider. But I've done this. I've worked in ERs. And the PAs, I said, push some Narcan. That's what's going on with them. Sure enough, because we had the Narcan in the vial. And he just went right back. So he overdosed on some poppy or something. So yeah, if you can get it from your state legally. But the thing is, if you're not taking an opioid yourself, this is where I get a little, your individual first aid kit that you have for you is for you. Narcan should be in a medic bag that you would use to help somebody else. There's that big distinction. The pouch I have bitter, that pouch is meant for you or your family. That medic bag is meant for everybody. But yeah, there are other drugs that you should have if you can, but you also got to remember you need a license for some of that stuff. So I don't want to go into what you need a license for. Every state in the union and is different, what you can get and what you can't get. But yeah, it's a good idea to have Narcan if you can have it.
Awesome. We've got another one from the online committee again. This is from Dream and Chase. What is the biggest mistake you see people make when they start preparing for emergencies, especially when it comes to buying gear instead of developing skills? Great question.
You know, in the military, right? You've heard the term "stay in your lane."
Yeah.
I'm not in the military anymore, but the same thing applies. Notice when I talked about chest trauma, I didn't mention needle decompression, right? Because odds are if you don't know what you're doing, you're going to make the injury worse. So buy the gear that you know that you're working on, and master that gear and master the skills that go behind that gear. Learn about, you can see the pleural cavity, the negative pressure, and when positive air goes into it and what happens and how that collapses the lung. I could go on for hours about that, but anyway, for like someone, okay, I'm going to just break it on down a little bit, out of my lane a little bit. I'm not a mechanic, so why would I want to buy I have all the tools, let's just be honest, but there's certain things I don't know how to fix, right? So when I call for help, the mechanic knows what tool right away to use to fix it or what piece of equipment. That's where you need to have that. I don't like calling it a MAG or a mutual assistance group. That just sounds so 2010. I like to call it a survival operations group. It's got a soft, cool name to it. So I call it a survival operations group, or a SOG. That's where you need to develop a SOG, and you have people almost like an A team. If you would, a 12-man A team, you're going to have your engineer or mechanic that knows how to fix stuff. Everybody's got a lane. Don't overstep your lane, because if you do something, like if I tried to fix my generator and there was a spark and it exploded, guess what? Bye-bye. That's not my field of expertise. So I knew that I couldn't fix that fuel line. It was dark outside and it was raining, and I'm outside because I wouldn't dare do it inside my house. I'm like, you know what? I think I'm going to have to put this in the L corner as a loss. I tried, but I failed. So you got to know your lane. And like I said, you learn from failure. You just can't know everything. It's impossible. So just have the gear that you know and what you're willing to learn.
Yes, and make sure you actually pay attention when you're learning. And if they want you to demonstrate your abilities, don't hide in the bathroom while everyone else is demonstrating. It's good to
And
get.
that's why I created the Total Preparedness Program, to bring people up a step. And really, it's what, $9.97 a month. It's not that, it's a good deal. And I have over 400 modules in there of different things that I add to it constantly. And as I do this, and that's the great thing, I learn myself. And I like to share my knowledge. I know how to do research, and I like to share my knowledge. I like to share in that journey. And that's why I wanted to create my Total Preparedness Program. It's all encompassing, and it's not an entirety, but I can get away with saying a lot more on that than I can on a YouTube video, and risk getting your channel cut, because you can't show certain, you cannot show certain things, and you get in trouble if you do that. And that's how they do that. So that's why I did that as well.
That's a good way to prepare for that. Is what you're doing is doing it the right way. So that's awesome. And questions are pouring in, so this is good. That means people are listening. So this is from Selly Butt Jim. After working as a combat medic in 2 wars and later in an ICU, what do you know about staying calm under pressure that the average person can begin practicing today? Thank you for that.
I think of that, when that song by Queen, Under Pressure.
Yeah.
When shit's, can I say shit?
When
something's hitting the fan, right? I can either go up and overreact, and that makes everybody else around me overreact. Or you can have that internal rage, that internal anxiety. Excuse me. But like during a code, right? Everybody needs to be calm, collective. When a patient who stops breathing in the intensive care unit, you learn to be calm. Nobody's yelling at anybody. We all talk, because that improves the flow of care. Same thing when it comes to everyday life. If you're dealing with a tense situation, you're not going to achieve anything by screaming and yelling or losing your temper. You are going to achieve something by talking firmly and calmly. Even though you feel it inside, you want to just, you just want to go, but you can't act on that. So you can't control how you feel. You can control how you act on it. So when something bad happens to somebody on the medical side, I automatically think, well, what's the worst case scenario? And I can rule that out after I do an examination of the patient. And then I go down the scale. Okay, well, like patients say they have chest pain right away. Okay, so for an example, chest pain. You think that's angina, the heart's not getting any oxygen. Turns out to be acid reflux after doing a good examination, looking at the EKG. But in everyday life, you have to be calm. I got more done with my medics just talking to them, except for one guy. I had to make him do push-ups all the time. Yeah. But you can achieve more with calmness than by screaming.
Yes.
Treat everybody like a gentleman or a lady, even under pressure. I hope that answers the question.
I think
because you can't control how you feel, but you can control how you react.
Definitely take that deep breath and calm yourself down, and then go back, let training kick in, let everything you've learned kick in. And especially you guys, medics usually, they're the calmest people that you'll see in a chaotic situation, especially in combat. They might curse at someone for doing something stupid, but they'll stay calm while they're treating and do things the right way. Even tonight when the show started and my mic wasn't working, I didn't panic. I just had to go through my checklist of all the things that could be going wrong at that point and see how to remedy the situation and get it right. And it worked. And I could have went nuts and cursed at and kicked my computer and called the IT guy that I don't have, but I didn't. I kept working the problem until it fixed itself, basically. So that's an example of how to stay calm in that situation. And we've got one more in here. This one is from.
It's a life lesson, It's how you approach things. Yeah,
definitely.
That's what I think.
This one is from Mount Janky. If 911, an ambulance, or a hospital were unavailable for several hours, what medical supplies and capabilities should every household realistically have? I think we kind of answered this earlier, but this is for the households.
Well, and here's the thing. You're not going to be able to solve. People are going to die sometimes. I hate to say that, but this is why this earth rotates 24 hours a day. Life goes on. You can't save everybody, no matter what. I mean, I have an abundance of medical gear equivalent to a medical aid station. I'll just be honest with you, which is enough gear for about 300 people to treat them. And I keep that as my backup. Once I'm out of all that gear and all those supplies, I'm a rifleman basically at that point. You can only do so much. If every family had some preparedness, it would be spread. That's why I go back to Survival Operations Group. You work with other people. We talked about the radios. I mean, this is shoot, move, communicate, so to speak, if you know what I'm saying. And that's the exact reason why I created my Total Preparedness Program. And I chose those words specifically because it's total, and it's preparedness, and it's a program. Yeah. But I do talk about death. That it's morbid. Some people aren't going to make it. You can only do so much. There's only so much. If someone's on dialysis and they're not going to get it for 2 weeks because of total eclipse of the heart kind of situation. Okay, I throw song titles in there, but some people aren't going to make it, and there's not a damn thing you can do about it. And you got to accept that. So the best thing that you can do is stay as healthy as you can. Don't drink soda, drink a lot of water. And like Hogan used to say, eat your fruits and vegetables and chicken, right?
Take your Flintstone vitamins.
Do the best. Take
those Flintstone vitamins every day. You'll be good.
Yeah.
Say your prayers. We got one for I guess this next question kind of points to when you transitioned out of the military. It's from Russ for now. For veterans who leave the military and struggle with finding their next mission or sense of purpose, like we talked about earlier, what did your own transition teach you about rebuilding identity after your service?
I'm a God-fearing man. Well, I don't say fearing. You want to know what my first job was out of the military?
What's that?
McDonald's. Ooh. I wanted to know what it felt like working at McDonald's as a guy in his 20s. And how people treated someone that worked there. Just some people are so mean. Some people are. The transition after active duty, I wanted to work at McDonald's. I wanted to see what it was like in case I ever ran for political office. I could say, yeah, I worked at McDonald's, right? But thank God I'm not in politics. But I want to answer your question now. It's humbling, the transition. The skills that you've acquired in the military and the way you practice them, it doesn't directly convert to working on the civilian side because you still require, the civilian side requires a certification or a technological skill set that you still have to acquire. Even though, let's say you are, and I don't know this for a fact, okay? I go back to my generator. Say you're a generator mechanic in the Army and you wanted to become a generator mechanic in the civilian world. There's probably a certification that you have to take to become that generator mechanic in the civilian world. And that's where it goes back to humbling. Yeah. So I was a medic in the Army, right? I was like, boom, 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 starting IVs. Started IVs in the neck before. Did some needle decompressions. Cool stuff, saved lives. You want to know what my first medical job was? I worked as a CNA wiping butts. But I knew that this is the route. If I'm going to do it, okay, you have to humble yourself. It sucks. But I had to make a living. So I had to go from CNA, which is certified nursing assistant, and there's no shame in doing that. People need help, to RN to nurse practitioner. But it was very humbling. 1 minute I was on the 160th, an elite unit. We wore our, outside of the garrison, we never wore our berets. We weren't supposed to. But, we thought we were it because I was a paratrooper. We thought we were it.
Yeah.
Take off the uniform, put on, may I help you, sir, name tag, welcome to McDonald's. It's humbling. I don't know what to accept defeat. Except that transition, it's never going to be, they have those transition offices. It's never going to be easy. You're not, if you don't know someone, you're not going to transition to a high paying job unless you have that skill set. For the enlisted man, I can't speak for the officer, to be honest with you, even though what I did in the military or what I did as a civilian would be equivalent to what an officer did, but I like being a medic. So the transition's tough. I get it. The skill sets don't always transfer over, but your mentality and your work ethic does transfer over. And that's the advantage that you have over Joe Smo, if you know what I mean.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And you actually, you're in a unique situation since you went from active duty to the Guard. That's one transition there. And then when you finally retired, that's a whole other transition because now you just stopped doing one side of it. And you had to, just concentrate on one thing. And then now, of course, you transitioned into TPP. So you've transitioned multiple times, and obviously you're doing well with it. So good job in the transition world.
Thank you.
And as we start to wrap up, Patrick, the hours went by pretty quick here, and we've learned a lot from you and about you just through the questions from the audience and from just me and you chatting about military life and the things that we've seen and things. How do you prep? Now I'll just ask you the easy questions. It's just like late night shows for you here. What's the best way for the MisFit Nation, the audience, to get in contact with you?
Go over to tpp.suburbanprepper.com. And that's where sign up for the course if you want, or if you want there it is right there. Sign up for the course, start taking some of those courses. $9.97 a month. That's less than what a cup of coffee costs at some of those coffee places, right?
Yes.
I mean, think about it. You see that cup of coffee right there below on the image.
Oh, yeah.
Anyway, I'm pointing at it with my. But yeah, I'm on Suburban Prepper on YouTube, and I have links to ways to contact me, and there's ways to contact me through my Total Preparedness Program. But yeah, that's
the website
tpp.suburbanprepper.com. That's my website. That's my sweetheart. Took a lot of work building her too.
I can see. Yeah. And it's very thorough. Like I said earlier, you had the free guide here right at the beginning. You press that. I think it opens another window. So I'm not sure if it'll stay on here, but press that. You put in your email and the guide should come to your email. Then the about button tells you all about Patrick, about the TPP, then his YouTube, the membership tiers, and then testimonials from those who have used it. So that's the best way to build your website, and good job with that.
So I'm just going to be those that checkout grocery cart thing doesn't work. I'm not perfect. Okay. I'm not a computer guru. I got to figure out how to delete that. Make it go away magically. I realized I was playing on it and was like, what the heck am I going to do with this? I got to figure it out. But
I'm sure someone in one of your groups is smart on that stuff, and they'll be able to push you in the right direction.
Yeah.
And our last question from the MisFit Nation to you, this one's like those late night shows right here. It's going to be your top 3. What's 3 things the MisFit Nation, our audience, can start doing tomorrow to be better humans?
Love each other.
There we go.
Love yourself. And always try to leave something better than you found it.
Nice. Those 3 good ones right there.
I mean, I'm getting a little Jesus there, I know, but
yeah,
always you know, those are the three things. Try to make the world a better place. Start with yourself, both physically, mentally, and with others.
Outstanding.
I mean, I'm not going to tell you, subscribe to my website. That's what you got to do. That's the number one. Number one thing is make yourself better.
That could be number 4. Subscribe to your YouTube.
Yeah, I mean,
if you subscribe to MisFitNation, subscribe to Suburban Prepper, and then we'll both our numbers will go up and reach bigger audiences, and that's what it's all about. Reach one, teach one, and that's what, especially with the preparedness. If you can reach one tonight, teach one tonight, they'll be able to teach one tomorrow, and so on and so forth, and make everyone better at what they do. And we're all here, we're all on there. So, Patrick, thanks again for hanging out with us tonight and taking some of your Sunday to share your knowledge with the MisFitNation.
And thank you for having me on, Rich. I really, really appreciate it. Very fun time tonight.
Awesome. Thank you. Thanks for sharing everything with us. MisFitNation, make sure you go to tpp.suburbanprepper.com. Check out what's there and get that free guide. And maybe with that free guide, become a subscriber. One of the tiers, either monthly or annual. I think you pay one annual fee and you get all the classes as they come out. So
it's lifetime. That's lifetime.
It's a lifetime thing. So that's not a bad deal. I'm sure you guys spend money on a lot of other things that you can never get a lifetime out of, but this is something that can help you out. So just check that out. Also, you see the wall behind us with our patches. If you have a patch out there, listeners, or even you, Patrick, that you want to get put on that wall that we can put on there.
Send you that one. That's what I need to send you.
Yeah, send that 160th patch on there, and we'll hang it on there on a wall of valor, wall of honor, and it'll be right there behind me in Studio 412 here. And you'll be able to see your patches on there. MisFitNation, remember, if you see the darkness and those walls are caving in on you, you've gone through some bad stuff. We understand. We've gone through it too. Be strong. Don't make a permanent solution to a temporary problem. And we know that hurts even hearing that it's a temporary problem. But inside of you, you're strong, you're loved. Everyone around you wants you there. Reach in your wallet. Take that little card with those 3 names on it. Call them up. They want to hear from you. Because the day tomorrow is 100% better with you than it is without you. Remember that. If that doesn't work, dial 988. Follow the prompts. If you're a veteran, take option 1. And if all that fails, contact us here at the MisFitNation. info@themisfitnation.com, Steven@themisfitnation.com, or Jake@themisfitnation.com. We will get back with you. We'll get you online and keep you online until someone local can get to you and make sure you're all right and you're here with us forever, or as long as we can have you. Until next time, MisFitNation, you be humble, stay hungry, and keep hustling.
Thanks for checking us out and being a part of the MisFitNation show. Don't forget to visit our website at themisfitnation.com. That's themisfitnation.com. Check out all our past episodes and get some of the great MisFitNation gear for you and your family. As always, be humble, stay hungry, and keep hustling, because we are MisFitNation. MisFitNation.